Hello.
Hi.
How's it going?
It's a Monday. It's a very Monday-y Monday
And it's so cold and so gloomy.
and
Bad.
raining.
Yeah.
But you know what's crazy? It's supposed to like jump back up again to like 30s. Like I can't handle this. Like we either gotta commit to the pumpkin spice or it has to be summer. Like I can't do this.
We have to commit to the bit, honestly.
Yeah. Like am I getting pumpkin spice lattes and baking with pumpkin or is it still summer?
You know what? This is how people get sick. I got pumpkin spice cake Nespresso pods.
Wow, I had to like listen to that in my head 3 times. Were they good?
So good.
You know what's not good? And I'll just like streamline this for you so you don't do the same thing as me. I love pumpkin everything except pumpkin beer.
Oh, ew. I
Beer
don't think I
and
would ever.
pumpkin. You know what? I went to my favorite brewery in Barrie, and it's called Flying Monkeys for anybody listening and needs to go there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the best place. And I went and they were like, telling me about their fall drinks and stuff like that. They're like, "Are you a pumpkin person?" I was like, "I am, in fact, a pumpkin person." They're like, "You're gonna love this beer." I was like, "Oh, hold on. I don't do pumpkin beer." And they're like, "No, you'll like this pumpkin beer." And I was like, "But I won't though." And they're like, "You will, otherwise we'll give you a free beer." And I was like, "Well, in that case, I'm going to try it, right?"
And then you lied. So you got a free beer.
I told them I hated it. And sure enough, they came out. They're like, "Hey, what beer do you want?" And I was like, genuinely, I think this is repulsive. It's just, I just don't feel like pumpkin belongs in beer.
No.
No.
I would agree. This pumpkin spice coffee is good. It's like it's almost like it's like hints of cinnamon. Like it
Okay, I
has
would be okay with that.
hints of cinnamon and probably some nutmeg. It's actually nice. And then you add in a little bit of like whatever creamer you're using and it's quite delightful.
Yeah, I feel like coffee I could get down with that, but not beer. But speaking of eating all of the delightful pumpkin stuff,
Yes.
we're actually here to talk about insulin resistance today.
Yeah.
Not so much the dietary piece. Well, Laura might. I don't know what Laura's going to talk about today. Actually, she didn't put her notes in our podcast.
Just being a wild card today.
Yeah, so I don't know what the heck Laura's going to.
You know what? Now you know like what my shoes are like when I hop on a session with Dr. Ashley Barker.
And hanging and just being my friend in general. We just don't know what's going to happen on the day-to-day. But what I'm going to talk about is, specifically the role of exercise in insulin resistance, because something that comes up now and then, and you know what? This was good for me. This was good for me to sift through the research a little bit, because it's always good to like check yourself and your biases, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of the things we do as clinicians, there's not a lot of research out on a lot of topics that that we tackle in our practice. So we have to go off of what we think is logic and what exists in the literature for other similar subtopics or aspects of the topics, right?
Yeah.
But I think we should take a walk backwards a little bit and talk about insulin resistance in general and perimenopause and menopause and if it's a thing and if it's a problem. Because if it's not, why are we talking about exercise, right?
Right.
So
why would we?
But like, spoiler alert, it's a problem. That's why we're here and why we're talking about it. And generally the hormonal changes that happen during perimenopause and menopause, such as a general decline in estrogen levels, it is linked with insulin resistance and weight gain. And when we look at a lot of the published journals, women going through menopause are at an increased risk of developing insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes due to these hormonal changes. There's usually other things involved, but there is an increase in incident rates, if you will.
Yep.
Something else that sucks, and honestly, I feel like if you work with this population, you've heard this. I know you have. Whether or not it's scientifically proven or not, you've heard this. Body composition changes in perimenopause and menopause. Like every woman that I work with that will come in and, we're talking about their goals and we'll get to know them and be like, listen, can you get rid of this gut? Like, I don't know what has happened. But I woke up one day and my arms are flapping in the wind, or I've got these little stick limbs with no muscle tone like I used to. I've got these skinny little legs and arms and this like little pot belly, right?
Yep.
Came out of nowhere, seems unfair.
Yep.
Doesn't matter what I'm doing, I seem to be battling it, right? So I hear that day in, day out. I know you do too.
Yep.
And factually, it is a problem. So women in perimenopause and menopause are often experiencing that increase in abdominal fat and overall decrease in muscle mass, which can in and of itself lend to more insulin resistance. And a study published in the International Journal of Obesity found that postmenopausal women do in fact have a higher percentage of body fat and lower lean muscle mass compared to premenopausal women. So it is a thing when we compare the populations. And there are things that we can do to manage this. Do you want to talk about testing first, or just like, nah?
Yeah. I think
let's do that.
we need to understand how we even get to this point. And actually, I was talking to a patient last week, and she was told that she was insulin resistant by her naturopathic doctor, and my jaw was like on the floor because she wasn't actually. And the thing is with this like functional way of looking at things, it's really not black and white. And so it leaves a lot to interpretation. But the way that I look at insulin resistance, essentially, when I talk to patients about, what is insulin resistance, we're looking at two pieces. We're looking at the first piece is the actual glucose. The glucose is what we've broken down the food into. So simply put, the glucose is the thing. The insulin is the hormone. This is the way our body responds, because some people are confused when your sugar is normal, but your insulin is not. And so it's important to understand if your insulin is not normal, it's because your hormones are not responding appropriately, right? The hormonal response to the food is a problem. Now that can be because maybe your cell, so essentially we eat the food, we break down the food. Now we have sugar floating around in the bloodstream. We want to get it into the cells, and so we make insulin. The pancreas makes insulin. The insulin goes around, opens up the door, lets the sugar in so that we can use sugar for energy. We can't use sugar for energy when it's chilling in the bloodstream. What we put it in the bloodstream for is so it's acute availability, right? We need to be regulating that for a number of reasons. Anyways, so essentially certain foods can actually stimulate the hormonal response, but they don't necessarily put more sugar in the bloodstream. So just look at it like those are two separate pieces. And so the problem is our conventional way of looking at blood sugar really just waits until there's something horribly wrong. And then it's like, wow, there's something horribly wrong out of nowhere. It feels right.
Mm-hmm.
And so how we look at it is we start with HbA1c and we start with fasting glucose typically. HbA1c is essentially a marker of how's your blood sugar been controlled over the past 3 months, right? And we're looking for it to be like, there's thresholds. There's normal, there's at risk, there's pre-diabetic, and there's diabetic. To be diabetic, you have to be like over 6.5. But all of the way through, you're still increasing your risk slowly until you're like at a point where there's really no more return, right?
Right.
And so that's how we usually look at it. And we also look at fasted glucose. We look at your sugar at a fasted level. The reality is, in most people, they're really not fasted for that much of their day. They're usually eating. And so that's not really a great representation of how things actually are on the whole. And so I like to do a test called the insulin glucose challenge. Now, if you've ever been pregnant, you've done the glucose test, the glucose tolerance test, where you're at the lab for 2 hours, you drink the drink, and you wait 2 hours and you get a blood draw. I actually just did my own insulin glucose challenge, and you can see
she's coping really well from it.
So if you're a patient of mine and you're like, you sent me for blood work and I got same.
Same, and I don't feel bad for you.
No, because I've been there. I was there. Like, they're like hitting my veins. Like,
yeah, for those that are like listening to this and can't visually see, Dr. Laura just pulled up her sleeve and has like the world's biggest bruise on here.
Yeah, and this is and I got this done on Friday. We're now Monday. So.
Right. Yeah, it looks like she has a problem, but she doesn't.
Yeah. So essentially you go and you get 4 pokes. The reason for those pokes is we have a fasted poke that looks at glucose and insulin. Then you drink the drink. Then at half hour, you get another poke. And then at 1 hour, another poke. And then 2 hours, your last poke, right? And so the goal of this is to see, when you drink 75 grams of glucose, how does your body handle it? How high does your insulin go? Do the cells respond to the insulin? Can we store the sugar, et cetera, et cetera? This can be a really good predictor of early insulin resistance, because if, again, most people are storing the glucose, but the question is, at what cost? How long are they taking to store the glucose? How high does their insulin have to go? How much do they have to make in order for their cells to react? And so I like to do this so I can understand, how should you be eating? For example, 3 meals a day, 2 meals a day, snacks, no snacks, fasting, no fasting, right? Like, how are we
Right.
structuring your diet so it makes sense for your insulin? Again, for example, someone who has really, really high insulin that overshoots, I'll often have them intermittent fasting. Someone whose insulin is normal, but their sugar's a problem, I might do something different, right? So
Right.
looking at those pieces, but really that's how we identify exactly what's going on. And then we can implement the exercise piece. But an interesting thing before Dr. Ashley goes on with more of that exercise piece is that no matter how you slice it, like, if you're thinking, there's no way I'm doing that test, Laura, like, I'm not, which I would highly encourage that you do, because it's super valuable to have that baseline data and to understand, like, if you have a belly fat problem, it could just be insulin being the problem. And so understanding if it is really important. But I will tell you, like, exercise is one of those interventions. It's going to help no matter what. If your blood sugar is, if you're more hypoglycemic, if you're like reactive hypoglycemic, if, whatever, exercise is always going to help.
Right. And I actually have more to add to that. So, in what a lot of people don't appreciate, and why Dr. Laura and I work so well together, is oftentimes when we're talking about insulin and glucose, we're talking about a system of, an organ, right, pumping out insulin in order to control blood sugar, right? That's typically the systems that we're looking at to control this. Now, one of the other systems out there that basically functions mostly independently is the MSK system, or the musculoskeletal system. So the muscles themselves have their own receptors to take glucose from the bloodstream and utilize it for energy for the muscle, right? Which is cool. So in theory, more muscle over a greater surface area of muscle equals better blood sugar management, right? So my bias has always been towards strength training and saying, let's grow the muscle, right? I'm not opposed to any form of exercise, because in the grand scheme of this population, people are doing very little, and getting them to do anything more than what they're doing to me is a win in my books, right? Mm-hmm. So I often try not to get too bogged down into very specific prescriptions if somebody is completely inactive.
Yeah.
Now, what I would have thought, sifting through the literature, honestly, was that exercise that involved more of the larger muscle groups and more strength training would have been more advantageous than cardiovascular or aerobic based training. And what I've actually found going through the research is that they offer different effects. And I think the best bang for your buck is to actually consistently do both. So that was kind of cool for me to see. Okay. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. So my interest was kind of to tackle my own bias of, what's better, if you will. Is it better to, strength train, lift really heavy over a shorter time interval, or do more aerobic based training? And it seems that exercise in general has been found to improve insulin sensitivity and reduce the risk of developing insulin resistance in all populations, but specifically in perimenopause through menopause. And it would seem that as we sift through specific studies, that there is benefits to both. So I looked at one study. This was probably the largest study, and probably one that has the greatest weight, if you will, because it's a systematic review, which means we took all of the studies that kind of looked at resistance training on insulin resistance in older women. And I forgot to look at what they defined as older, because, what does that mean? But this was a 2020 study, and a meta-analysis revealed that resistance training significantly improved insulin sensitivity in older women. when they did some stats, they looked at the pooled effect size indicated a moderate to large benefit. The study highlighted that resistance training was effective in reducing insulin resistance, suggesting that it really is a valuable intervention in this population. Now, this strictly looked at resistance training, so we're like, okay, cool, that's in for sure. Some other studies I pulled out are not quite as big as this one, but they're more comparative of the effects of aerobic and resistance training on glycemic control in overweight or obese older women. So that's a very specific population. And it found that both actually very much controlled glycemic control with women that already had type 2 diabetes. Aerobic exercise was actually more effective in lowering HbA1c levels, while resistance exercise led to greater improvements in muscle mass and strength, which further contributed to better glycemic index control. So that is kind of cool. And then looking into another 2016 study published in the New England Journal of Medicine, again demonstrated that both aerobic and resistant exercise were effective in improving insulin sensitivity and reducing body fat. In this case, aerobic exercise showed greater reductions in fat mass, while resistance exercise was more effective in improving muscle strength and function. And then they found that combining both types of exercise provided the most comprehensive benefits and overall metabolic outcomes. And then again, as we sift through, the next study I looked at, again, compared them, found similar effects, but found that aerobic exercise found greater reductions in visceral fat. And again, while resistance training improved lean muscle mass and strength. But the general consensus here, as I very consistently in any of the good studies that compared the two, found that we should really be combining the both of them, and each offers their own unique advantages. So aerobic exercise seems to be particularly effective for reducing fat mass, particularly around the abdomen, and improving cardiovascular health, while resistance training increases muscle strength and metabolic function. So really, for anybody that's listening that's a clinician and is guiding people in this space, really it would seem pretty much every study supported the fact that we should actually be prescribing both. But what does that mean from a more practical aspect? Yeah, obviously both is better, but to me, what shouted out to me was do whatever the hell you like to start, right? Something's going to be better than nothing. So if you're battling a patient that's very fearful of weight training, maybe we start them out with really consistent aerobic training because we know there's going to be some benefits to that, right? And then continue to work through some of those barriers in terms of starting some resistance training, right? Maybe we're starting with body weight. A lot of these studies, I didn't talk about the particulars, but some of them were body weight, some of them combined band work, and some of them were actually weight training. So it would seem that the effects are there regardless of the method that you choose. So meeting the patient or the client or whomever where they're at might be the best way to move forward in this health adventure.
Yeah, and I want to take this opportunity to tell everybody about the trampoline I just purchased. And
I don't even think I addressed this in your text. To let you know, I did laugh out loud because I'm picturing it, but please do take over the mic, Laura.
I need to tell everybody that there's an auction in the Barrie area. And it's called King of the North. And if you haven't heard of it, well, now you have.
Now you have.
And they do an auction every week. There is, when I say random crap, there's literally anything you could think of, from MacBook computers to like random hinges that you would need for a random thing. Okay.
I could need some random hinges. I should look into this.
You should. There's car parts, there's like furniture, there's bed frames, and there's exercise equipment. And so I've gotten a few things there, including I got the Instant Pot for like a really good price. I was telling Dr. Ashley, like, okay, they charge a 10% service fee on what you buy. So I always put my max, like I know what I'm willing to pay for something based on what I know it retails for. And also you have to make sure you look to make sure it's new, because a lot of the stuff, like one time it was
yeah, I'd be pissed if I bought a used Instant Pot. Like I
wouldn't. No, like some of the stuff will be like Stained. And you're like, what?
I can't think of one thing that I would like to purchase stained. Not one thing.
Or like there's expired food on there.
Well, depending on what it is. I mean, Mr. Noodles, you're probably fine. Although I can't tell you the last time I bought Mr. Noodles.
Yeah, but can you tell me that you'd pay for it expired? I'm not asking if you'd take it for free.
I'd have to, yeah, that's another beast. I'd be hard pressed to pay for expired food.
So one thing I got yesterday, in fact, was a mini trampoline, okay? Because I've been wanting a mini trampoline for a really long time. Why? Because the exercise, so I do strength training with Dr. Ashley at Push Women's Health and Performance, their gym and their clinic. But I also at home use a online tool, and it's called Obey Fitness. And if you've never used Obey Fitness, I'm also going to plug them because I've had a membership for years. I love it. But they have a variety of different classes, from strength training to Pilates to yoga to HIIT. But one category of exercises that they have is called bounce. And I've wanted to do this for so long. I'm like, I want to do a bounce class. So naturally, I saw, and also like it's cool for kids to have a trampoline because when it's rainy or snowy,
all kids love trampolines.
It's like one of those. It's like a 40-inch whatever one. It's not very big, and it has a bar. Okay, so I'm like, my kids can jump on it too. But I've been finding on the interweb a lot of information about rebounding and the benefits of rebounding, and so to come into this conversation, the bounce classes, they actually incorporate strength training with bouncing. And it's like a low impact way to get your joints, like it's low impact on your joints, but you can also like get cardio. So what I did naturally is I looked into the research, and I was like rebounding at like 10 o'clock at night, looking at PubMed. And I'm trying to find the article that I looked at yesterday. But what I did find as you were talking is a 2018 study, and it's called The Influence of Mini Trampoline Rebound Exercise Program on Insulin Resistance, Lipid Profile, and Central Obesity.
Come on, you did not find this study.
With type 2 diabetes.
Did you write it? I feel like you wrote this.
Author, Dr. Laura Piper.
Written 10 p.m. after purchasing said trampoline. That's
published
so
date, September 8th, 2024. No, for real. Okay, so I need to tell you about this study. So they say the methods of this study, okay, they took 60 non-insulin dependent type 2 diabetics. The median age was 39, okay? They recruited it and they randomized them. What I found the funniest, I think, was the methods of this study, okay? Because
I'm dying. I already think this is the best.
They had a rebound group, which rebounded, and they had a control group. I need to tell you what the control group...
How do you control this?
No, I'm telling you what the control group's doing. The control group read health magazines or watched television.
That's not... I mean... I was thinking, they're going to have them fake rebound? Like, what are they going to do? Calf raises?
The non-rebound group laid on the floor.
God. That's so funny.
And the rebound exercise group jumped on a mini trampoline for 30 minutes, 3 times a week for 12 weeks.
And the other people read Us Weekly. That's so funny.
And the other people laid on the couch.
Oh, man. Well, was it effective?
So it showed that the mini trampoline rebound exercises were beneficial for people with
especially when we compare it to magazine reading. Yeah, no kidding, eh? That's so funny.
So if you were choosing to jump on the trampoline or lay on the floor,
you pick the trampoline.
Your best bet is
now that we're off the rails for a second, did I tell you my new exercise experience from the weekend?
Well, I think you did, but tell the people. A. Barker
strolled into, I genuinely unsure if I've ever done yoga before, formally, to be honest. But my business partner, Janine, was like, hey, Ashley.
I'm a little bit surprised because when you told me, I just thought like I didn't know, I knew you weren't a yogi, but like I thought that you had done it.
No, not that I can recall. If I did, it was like a one-off situation. But anyways, a lovely human that owns a yoga studio here in Barrie, primarily hot yoga. It was their 2nd year anniversary, and we wanted to go to support them. They're big supporters of our business. So we're like, Deneen was like, you should come. I was like, I'm coming. Coming to hot yoga. When I tell you I strolled into this place, I didn't even have a mat, Laura. I was so ill prepared. I
Wait, you
wore
have to bring your own
pants.
mat, I guess.
Well, I think you can rent it, but it was like a free class, and I was like, I don't know. Like, I really didn't know what I was doing. I just strolled in, was like, I don't have a mat. I'm wearing pants and like a tank top. I didn't even have a hair elastic. I just had like a giant clip somewhere. I was like, I don't know, I can clip my hair on top of my head. Again, for those that don't know me, I have about 4 feet of hair, so there's a lot of hair to clip on top of my head. When I walked up into that room, and I was like, I was not prepared for this. It's like, honestly, it's sauna temperatures.
Yeah.
I walked up like, y'all want me to exercise in this? Like, I couldn't even, I was like, should I just lay here and acclimate? Like, I've never had sweat dripping down my arms for just existing. And it was like, at one point, they were like, and you're going to grab your ankle. I was like, how? Tell me right now.
But aren't you like
Everything's just
slipping everywhere?
Slipping. Everything slipped everywhere. And like, I'm watching people, and they were all prepared for hot yoga. They had towels. They were toweling off. I was like, I'm just dripping everywhere. It was something. It wasn't not enjoyable. Like, I just feel like if I was more prepared, like, I would wear shorts next time and bring a towel and a hair
that
elastic.
would have been the best.
Yeah, but
thing.
anyways, I just showed up with blind confidence that I would just be able to do hot yoga.
How flexible are you?
Like, not super. No, I like to fling around heavy stuff all day. I mean, I should go to hot yoga. Like, there were some things I did well, but then they tried to get me to, like, they try to grab your hands and you do this like crazy thing with your arm. I was like, I don't think that's possible. So I'm going to pass on that. But
yeah, I feel like, it's hard also because when you look at all the types of exercise that's out there, like, some people just do Pilates, some people just do yoga, some people just do strength training. But at the end of the day, like, in order to find a balance, it is a little bit tough because you have to have all these memberships at different places. And, you're spending $150 at a strength training gym and $150 at a Pilates studio and $150 at a yoga studio.
Yeah, no, it's not. Yeah, not for nothing for the cost. And I really like playing sports, actually. So, like, it's not, it wouldn't be unheard of for me to be like, okay, I have baseball Wednesday nights and I'm playing, pick up basketball, Sunday nights type thing.
Yep.
And then, fitting that into my schedule again with my son that's with me. Right. So yeah, you can't do everything. But anyways, it was a good, enjoyable experience. Not sure how this links into insulin resistance at all, but in case anybody knows me and wants to picture Ashley doing yoga in 100-degree room.
Yoga can help with insulin resistance.
Yeah. I would think. Yeah.
I would think as well.
I would think so. I did not look into the studies, but
I was looking. What I've been trying to find this whole time is a study the study I came across yesterday, and I wish oh, hold on. I was looking at it on my phone, so I'm seeing if I can pull it up. So there was a study that I pulled up, and the reason why I wanted to pick it up, I can't find it right now, TBD, but I had found a study that combined mini trampoline and strength training.
We're not letting this go.
No, I'm not.
You know what else I love for anybody listening? There's this one chick that lives on Mapleview Drive in Barrie, and she has these like moon boots. And the way she
one of my friends is a moon boot. It's called Kangoo, and she's an instructor.
Oh my God, you wouldn't catch me dead. The first time I saw this woman trotting down Mapleview Drive, I was like, that is such confidence that you are just.
But I don't think you're supposed to like walk down the street with them.
She runs down the sidewalk.
Stop.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You can't unsee it. She's just. First time I saw her, you do like 9 takes or something. You're like, what is happening?
I think I'd be laughing too hard, like myself, like just me doing it. I'd be laughing too hard to be able to accomplish that.
She was so serious about it all, and I thought, you know what? That's a type of confidence that I don't even know if I possess.
No,
I'm a fairly confident person, but that is next level.
Yeah. Okay.
I hope we taught everybody something today.
Yeah, insulin resistance, things you can take away, the testing that you can do, the exercises that you can do. Really make it something that you like, but you have to move. I think that's like the take-home point. It's totally. Just a non-negotiable. You have to move. Right.
And it turns out, the research isn't terribly picky on it. So pick whatever you like. Pick
Get a
whatever's doable.
trampoline.
Get a trampoline from the auction.
From the auction. Mine is $50, so.
Love it.
TBD, you guys, I'm going to let you know how rebounding goes for me.
We're all going to hold our breath, for sure.
All right, guys. See you next time.
Bye.